after Caltrans demolished an overpass this weekend. They took down the Capitola Avenue Bridge as part of a plan to eventually widen the freeway. Caltrans says they will replace the 85-year-old bridge next year. And crabbers around the Bay are pulling up their traps for the last time today. That is because the commercial Dungeness crab fishing season ends today. The state is cutting the season short to protect whales from entanglement. The Bay Area's only primetime newscasts at 8 and 9 p.m. on the all-new Pix Plus, 44 Cable 12. Well, here we go. We are a little more than an hour away from 4 minutes of darkness in the daytime.
That's right. Millions across Northern America looking up at the same time as the moon upstages the sun, and the effect, a shadow cutting a path across the middle of the country. Thank you so much for joining us for our special streaming coverage of the solar eclipse. I'm Reed Cowan.
And I'm Ann Makovic, and this is a momentous day for space watchers and normal people alike. It is going to be quite an experience. Taking a live look now from Torreon, Mexico. The Exploratorium, in partnership with NASA, provided some telescope feeds. It's so dark, I don't even know if we're looking at something.
Maybe the eclipse jumped forward in time.
Yeah, so it obviously is very dark there if this is an actual live look.
I think somebody unplugged
Okay.
it. There we go.
I'm like,
yeah, there we go.
What is happening?
There's
okay.
the live look. That's pretty cool, though,
That
right?
is cool.
Okay, so this right here gives you an idea of just how far and wide this event is. The solar eclipse can be seen by millions, if we can take that graphic there, from Mexico across more than a dozen states, from Texas all the way through Maine and then up into Canada. And we are coming to you on the stream from San Francisco in the beautiful Bay Area, where we are really not in the path of totality, but we'll still see a partial eclipse. I'm understanding, Ann, about a 34% look at that eclipse. So this is a look from our exclusive Salesforce tower camera over towards the beautiful Golden Gate Bridge. We'll start seeing that partial eclipse in about just 10 or 15 minutes. Exciting.
Yes, and we will be here for all the live coverage. The best seat in the house, really, is along that path of totality. And reporter Lana Zach is in Indianapolis, where people have been camping out all weekend or even longer, waiting for the big moment.
Today, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway hosts a different history-making event, becoming what's believed to be the largest viewing site in the country for the solar eclipse.
Every IndyCar driver views this place as your kind of pseudo-home.
Alexander Rossi won the Indy 500 in 2016, but he's looking to slow down when the moon blocks out the sun.
I think I want to be somewhere that I can be alone. We should all strive to enjoy in our own individual ways.
Indianapolis is one of hundreds of cities and towns across more than a dozen states that lie within the 115-mile-wide path of totality.
I think it's going to be cool.
The Thompson family drove 9 hours from Minnesota to get the full experience.
It'll be memorable because that is the unique part in which I'll say, hey, you know what, I got to see that and I know exactly where I was when I was.
And I'm actually here on the track of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the only one out here, except in a few hours I'm going to be joined by tens of thousands of people, with all of us, our faces pointed to the sky.
The eclipse speaks to me in so many ways.
Barrett Caldwell is a professor of aeronautics and astronautics at Purdue University. For him, the science of the eclipse is just one part of the event.
Spiritually, emotionally, just a meaningful experience. It's one of the most amazing things that I think is available to humanity.
For those missing out on the path of totality, the next solar eclipse to appear in the lower 48 isn't until 2044, though parts of Europe will experience one in just 2 years.
All right, taking a live look from the ground right now. This is Kerrville, Texas, which is in the path of totality. People gathering there to enjoy the spectacle. Totality is expected at 11:32 our time.
All right, so here's another look up in the skies in the Bay Area. We're just a few minutes away from the beginning of the partial eclipse. Again, in the 30 percentile range. That's all, but still, if you have the glasses, it's worth a look up, right? Our Lauren Thompson is live from Chabot Space and Science Center in Oakland. It's an eventful day over there, Lauren. How are you feeling, my friend?
Its energy is really starting over here. Hundreds of people are about to arrive here at the Chabot Space and Science Center to get a more expert look at this solar eclipse. And one of those experts joins me now, astronomer Ben Burris. Ben, thank you so much for being here. Can you help us put into context just how rare of an occurrence this is?
Well, an eclipse itself is not that rare. Every 2 to 4 years, we have an eclipse of the sun or the moon. But you have to be in the right place at the right time to see it. Much of the time, a solar eclipse will happen on the wrong side of the planet or over Antarctica or somewhere where people aren't. But yeah, it's pretty rare to have the opportunity to see it yourself where you live.
And here we are lucky enough to get these special glasses. They're ISO certified, a very safe way of viewing the eclipse. But if you can't get your hands on these, what's another maybe homemade way to view the eclipse safely?
So the easiest, cheapest, and safest way to watch this eclipse is with a pinhole projector. And that can be as easy as taking a piece of aluminum foil and poking a small hole in it, and then casting the spot of light from that hole onto the ground, into the shadow of the foil. You can also take an object like a cooking colander or something that has a lot of holes in it, hold it up, look at its shadow, and you should maybe change the distance from the ground to your colander, and you'll see an array of little crescents during the eclipse.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for that. And here in the Bay Area, we are not quite on the path of totality, but I understand we could expect to see about a slice taken out of the sun when the moon moves in front of it. We'll be out here watching this eclipse from the Chabot Science and Space Center, and we'll bring you all of the updates as they come, guys.
All right, Lauren, thank you so much. And we've been watching a lot of cameras all over Northern America, and we're starting to see it happening.
Yes, we are, and we are going to have more coverage throughout the morning. Again, we're going to be live here, CBS News Bay Area, covering the solar eclipse right after the break. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. We are counting down to the eclipse of the sun. This is a live look from along the path of totality. The path crosses more than a dozen states, where many business owners have been cashing in on all the people coming for this celestial event in the scenic Texas Hill Country. Kerrville is having its moment in the sun, if you will. The mayor there said the city of about 25,000 could swell to as many as 100,000, prompting a change usually reserved for hurricane evacuations.
We will have one-way traffic right up here along this bridge.
So you're changing the traffic flow of the city?
Absolutely.
Kerrville is going to have one of the nation's longest views of the eclipse at 4 minutes and 25 seconds.
I got a chicken fried chicken, gravy all over.
Yeah, meantime, at Billie Jean's restaurant, the owner doubled many of her food orders. She says they've gotten calls for reservations from as far away as Germany.
And you'll go through most of this?
Yes, we'll definitely go through most of this, yes.
Yeah, and that does not look like a restaurant that normally takes reservations. Nationwide spending on the eclipse, like dining and travel, is expected to top $1.6 billion.
And we know why you're watching this morning. You're wanting to see live what's happening. This is a look at the skies here in the Bay Area. We should start seeing a partial eclipse here any moment now, so we're watching.
And a retired NASA astrophysicist, Fred Espinock, who's known as the eclipse chaser, suggests putting down that phone and just watch the eclipse. Of course, enjoy it safely. Don't record it, he says, because obviously there's going to be plenty of recordings that we're going to see from around the world, plenty of stuff to see later online. He's seen several eclipses, and he says it's always a unique experience because the electromagnetic radiation is always changing. Meteorologist Darren Peck has a deeper dive on how this eclipse is playing out today.
In order to get the spectacular show we're about to see in our sky, we need three main players: us, the sun, and the moon. These three are pretty well known in this discussion by far. Also, the elementary fact that the moon is about to get in between us and the sun, and it's going to cast a shadow on us from the sun. These are things that are all pretty well understood. But there's one number that I think gets left out of this conversation too much. A number, 400. A crucially important number when it comes to having a total solar eclipse on planet Earth. First of all, the sun is enormous. It's so big, we couldn't even do this to scale with the moon and us. We couldn't fit it even here on the virtual set. So we're going to come away with that number again, 400. The moon is 400 times smaller than the sun. And it also just happens to be 400 times closer to us than the sun is away. Think about that for a second. Because of that coincidence, it's 400 times smaller, and it also happens to be exactly 400 times closer to us. Because of that, the moon appears to be the same exact size to us in the sky as the sun does. That's an incredible coincidence. We don't know that that happens anywhere else. It certainly doesn't happen anywhere else in this solar system, and it probably doesn't happen anywhere else in the galaxy, maybe nowhere else in the universe. It's such a rare coincidence to think about that. And this is the reason why we're able to get a total solar eclipse, because the moon is going to be the same exact size in our sky as the sun when it passes in front of it. And as we're going to see in a second, that has huge implications if you can get in the right spot on planet Earth to be in that shadow, because that shadow is not that big. That exact shadow is not that big. You'll see why here when we take a look at it this way. So we're going to watch what's going to happen on Earth today from the vantage point of space, looking down, and you're going to see the shadow. And even though the moon appears to be the same size in our sky, we all know it's nowhere near the same size. And as a result, the shadow it's going to cast is actually ridiculously small. You kind of see it there, just kind of, it's only 115 to 120 miles wide. That's it. And that, you want to be in that zone. We're all going to get some form of shade from this, but we're not all going to be in that path, that limited path of totality. And to kind of understand how that's going to play out, let's bring up the actual map of the United States, specifically focused on the part where that path of totality is going to be, and we'll say goodbye to our floating Earth for now. And what we're going to do is align ourselves to be able to watch that shadow as it races across North America today. So as we bring on the shadow, you're going to see it make it up to Mexico, the border with Mexico and Texas. And that's going to happen right at about 11:30. Watch how fast it goes. It's already in Dallas by 11:40. It keeps going from there, and it makes it up to Cleveland by the time we get to 12:15. And then from there, it's gone off to Buffalo, and it makes it up to Buffalo by the time we get to 1220. That's how fast the moon is racing through our sky. And at the same time, we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. There's so much geometry, numbers that go into how this all works the way that it does. But it's the fact that you can actually get the alignment of that totality to show up where you find yourself perfectly aligned. And it's so rare and special that you've got to be in this line. This is that path of totality. And from side to side, it's only about 110 miles wide. And if you're not in that 110-mile wide path, you get a very different show, even if you're over here. So here, you're in the penumbra, and this is not that far. And at this point, you get 90% of the show. And if you get out here to this next shade, you get about 85% of the show. If you keep going and you eventually reach us, we're going to get about 35% of the show. Still a show, but it's not this show. And I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you the difference for what this looks like if you can be in this very rare line. And to do that, we're going to go back to the image of what the moon and the sun are going to look like for us. So if we're only getting 34% of the show, and that's going to happen at our time at 11:13, that's as much as we're going to get. So you can tell something's going on. If you've got protective eyewear, it's cool to look at it and see it that way. If you don't have protective eyewear, you can do some very serious, permanent damage to your eyes. I'm sure you've heard a lot about that over the last few days. So you absolutely must make sure you do not look up at this today unless you know you've got sanctioned, certified eclipse glasses. So make sure you can find a pair of those before you do this. So that's going to be our show. It's going to get a little darker in the sky. You'll be able to tell stuff's going on. You should make it a point to experience this in some way, because just having the awareness of it could be enlightening and make you feel a little more connected to the wonder of how this all works. But it's not what they're going to see in Dallas. Watch the difference here. Dallas is going to be in that path of totality. So it doesn't just mean you get a bigger shadow. This means you are now looking at that perfect alignment that we don't know happens anywhere else. It certainly doesn't happen anywhere else in this solar system. And the thing that's important about the moon being the same exact size in our sky as the sun is now it's blocked out the sun entirely right to the edge, which means you can now see the atmosphere of the sun, otherwise known as the corona. There were people in 2017, went up to Oregon or wherever they went. I was speaking with one of the educators at the Exploratorium here in San Francisco, and he drove up there in 2017, and he had a story to tell of two things he could see when he got into the path of totality. One of them, he could see solar flares. There's no way you could ever see that unless an eclipse was happening, because the sun itself is so bright, the glare is so overbearing, you can't see the corona. You can't see anything happening around the edge of the sun, which is really where the most exciting things about the sun occur. And some of the things we're desperately trying to learn more about from the scientific community here. So you could actually see a solar flare 93 million miles away with the naked eye, if you're in the path of totality, and if one happens to be occurring at that time. We are at a solar maximum right now, which means there are more solar flares happening for this eclipse than there were in 2017. So the odds are pretty good that could happen this year. The other thing is he could see stars. So the moon blocked out so much of the sunlight, you could actually pick out some constellations in the middle of the day. Not to mention the animals started acting a bit strangely, not to mention the temperature noticeably dropped. It felt cooler. So those are all things that make this experience so much more unique. A total solar eclipse is incredibly rare, and people who go and who make it say it's a life-changing experience. What we're going to experience here today may not be that, but it is still going to be a partial solar eclipse, and it will still be our way of at least feeling like we were part of this and we've witnessed it, and if nothing else, we gained a little more understanding and inspiration about how this all works.
All right, Darren Peck there, and meteorologist Mary Lee is at the Stanford Oval. Mary, one of the many remarkable things about this shared experience is that students are now seeing science playing out in real time. How's it looking?
It is amazing, Reed. Happy Eclipse Day. It is so cool to be out here with so many students here at Stanford, at the Stanford Oval, checking out the eclipse safely. They are passing out these special solar eclipse glasses out here. And I want to bring in Stanford grad student. This is Colin, and we've had a chance to check it out. How cool is it to look up and to see the spectacular side, and doing it safely, of course?
Absolutely. It is fantastic. I just took a look about 30 seconds ago, and we can start to see the moon move across the sun from right to left. We're starting to see that sunlight being blocked out. I'm excited. There's a bunch of people here today that are clearly very excited, and about 45 minutes or so, we're going to get maximum coverage of about 35%, which is going to be a blast.
The countdown begins.
It sure does.
You know, even though we're not in the path of totality, it is still cool to see this partial eclipse here.
Oh, for sure. Eclipses don't happen every day, and the next one over the United States is going to be a total solar eclipse. Is going to be in 2045. So let's savor it while we can, and it's a beautiful day out here to enjoy the eclipse.
Yeah, I love it. We don't even have any clouds in the sky. Perfect weather to check this out. And how is it for you to be out here and to experience this?
Oh, it's lovely. I have never experienced an eclipse before. Got my eclipse glasses, and I gotta say, again, do not look directly at the sun if you do not have eclipse glasses. They have a special lens in there that'll block out the harmful radiation that can hurt your eyes. And again, I'm just so excited to be here. This is very meaningful for me, and I'm super excited to share it with all of you.
Yeah, that is so great. Yeah, because people are thinking, okay, maybe I won't look directly at the sun, but maybe I have some sunglasses. These are special solar eclipse sunglasses. Can you talk about that and the difference? I mean, regular sunglasses just won't do it, right?
Yeah, I don't have the specifics for why these work, but they do have a very special lens in there that is not present in sunglasses that you can just buy in the store. Even if you got a really fancy pair of Ray-Bans, do not look at the sun. It's as simple as that.
Okay, cool. All right, so you said that we're actually going to see the full effect of the eclipse coming up soon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, at about 11:10, excuse me, that's when we're going to get maximum blockage. That's when we're going to get about 35% coverage. I wish we were in the path of totality.
Sure, right.
Get 100%.
Me too.
But that's all right. We're going to take what we can get. So.
Right. Cool. Thank you so much, Colin. Yeah, this is such a cool thing to be out here with so many students just looking up and enjoying the eclipse safely with these solar eclipse classes, or if you have a pinhole projector as well. But we are going to be out here enjoying it, taking it all in, and seeing the solar eclipse. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Mary. And it certainly is wonderful that we have such good weather here. We've been talking a lot about the rough weather that they're seeing in some of the parts, even in the path of totality like Texas. So we're going to take a look at some of those live cameras throughout the broadcast.
Stay with us. Junction, what's your function? Okay, Eclipse Watch on CBS News Bay Area, and this is what it looks like for Texans in the path of totality.
It's so
You're
cool.
hearing that phrase all the time. Isn't that cool? Yeah, it just looks like somebody's just sort of photoshopped, but that's an actual thing called the moon. Like a whole planet moving in front of another planet called the sun. We want to thank our friends offering us this live look from an Exploratorium telescope in collaboration with NASA to give us this up-close view of the eclipse in Texas. Everything's bigger, and that is the view right there in Texas. So let's talk about protecting your eyes. If you are watching the eclipse, we saw so many people down in Stanford. They were putting the glasses on.
Yeah, you know, they always say don't look at the sun without protection. Dr. Jill Beyer is an ophthalmologist at Stanford Healthcare. So we know we need to wear those special eclipse glasses to protect our eyes. Regular sunglasses are not going to cut it. So what is it about those eclipse glasses that protects us?
So those filters, those specific filters, and they need to be ISO compliant, protect us from infrared light, ultraviolet light, all the things that can damage our retina. And if you look at the sun, sometimes even just for a few seconds, you could have permanent eye damage. So really important to wear those filters.
Okay, so I'm seeing conflicting information. Now, we know here we're only going to see about 30 to 35% coverage there on the sun. So at no time is it good to look up without the protective eyewear. But we're also streaming right now, and we may have viewers that are in the path of totality watching us via the internet. NASA is saying even during that time of totality, keep the glasses on. Some people are saying just for a few seconds, you can take the glasses off once it's reached totality. What's the truth here? Give us the tea.
So we recommend leaving the glasses on all the time because you never know when you might actually view some of the rays by accident, particularly for children, things like that. Like they should have their glasses on at all times. You never know when they might just, whip them off for a second out of, just because they don't know. But really important recommendation, leave them on at all times.
Yeah, why risk it, right? I mean, let's talk about worst case scenario here. What kind of eye damage could happen if we would look at the sun?
So you can get something called solar retinopathy, and basically you can have permanent eye damage. You could have a blind spot in your vision where you were viewing the sun, and this could be forever. So, if it's just for a few minutes of viewing the eclipse, better to do it with glasses on than risk having lifelong visual issues.
Absolutely. All right, Dr. Jill Beyer with Stanford Healthcare. Thanks for joining us on Eclipse Day. Now, if you happen to be driving today, remember, obviously, to keep your eyes on the road as we continue to look at some of the live pictures going on from the path of totality. A new study published in the journal JAMA, Internal Medicine, it shows that traffic accidents shot up by about 30% around the time of the last total eclipse in 2017. So that's about one crash every 25 minutes. Researchers say it's not just because of distracted driving, but also because more and more people are out on the roadways, and some might be intoxicated from eclipse celebrations.
Yeah, I've been watching some of the conversations from our New York partners, and that is actually a big thing because it's peak traffic right now on New York freeways. They're, 3 hours ahead of us? So there's been a lot of news items today to New Yorkers, especially in all 5 boroughs. Just stay off the roads. And if you're here in the Bay Area, we know we're only going to see about 30 to 35% totality, but just maybe pull over, get to a safe spot, put your glasses on, and do it right. More coverage of the solar eclipse right after the break. This is what it looks like for our friends in Junction, Texas. We'll be right back.
right, welcome back. It is 10:31, and we are continuing to count down to the solar eclipse this morning. We've been looking at a litany of shots from NASA, providing their telescope power to show us a shot of the sun with the moon starting to slowly move across, blocking out the sun's light. So we've got several live cameras within what they call the path of totality around the middle of the country. And you can see the moon continues to move in to the, what are the complete, what is it again?
Well, it's the total coverage of it, right? But I believe Darren Peck said it's the corona.
Okay.
There's the corona effect. But we'll pull in more intelligent people where science is concerned here in just a minute. But, you know, Anne, you were making a great point earlier. You were like, look, let's just be very clear with people. What you're seeing in the dark colors there, that's the moon. And, of course, that's the sun. In other shots, you're going to see the sun is appearing as almost white. That is pretty easy to tell. But we're going to be popping up some other shots that NASA is going to provide for us. So if you just see that dark going over something white, that's also the sun. You know, millions of people are looking up as the moon casts a shadow across the middle of the country, and we are all here. You know what I love about this is we're having community, right? Like this is a time when
All
people are having the
experiencing
experience at the same time, and we're all going to have something common to talk about. How often do we get such a lucky moment in our country?
That's true. That's true. And in about 45 minutes, that is when we are going to see basically darkness in the day in that path of totality, which I think is really the cool thing. That's when animals could start to wig out and everybody sort of cheers for suddenly it looks like midnight in the middle of the day. So that is going to happen in about 45 minutes, our time, and we're going to be here live for it.
Yep, and we're grateful you're with us. Thank you so much for staying with us for our special streaming coverage of the total solar eclipse. I'm Reed Cowan.
And I'm Ann Makovic. And while we wait for that total eclipse here in the Bay Area, we're not going to get the full spectacle again, but as our Brian Hackney shows us, even a partial view, we're talking about 35% is still worth checking out.
I'm Dr. Jeff Matthews. Here we are on the Foothill College campus with the Foothill Observatory here on the left, the Krauss Center for Innovation here on the right.
While Jeff's a professor of astronomy, he has never seen this, a total solar eclipse unfolding over North America on Monday, but
I will not be in the Bay Area. I'm traveling to where I will be able to see totality. I'm so excited.
that means traveling to a 130-mile wide path of totality that in the U.S. stretches from southern Texas, across the Midwest, up through New England, and out the Canadian Maritimes. Outside of that path, it's just a partial solar eclipse, like the Bay Area saw back in 2017.
Even the partial eclipse is just fantastic. I loved it. With a little bit of focusing.
That's what we'll have in the Bay Area on Monday.
Voila.
Oh my God.
A partial solar eclipse.
I think it would be, it's not the sun, is it?
It is the sun, right?
It is?
That's the that is the only thing bright enough to get through this filter, is the sun itself.
At 10:14 a.m. Monday, the partial eclipse begins over the Bay Area, reaching maximum partial eclipse at 11:13 a.m.
From the Bay Area, imagine that you've got a cookie and you've taken a bite out of it. That's how the sun will appear, if you are looking at it through a filter.
And you must use one of these filters. Never, ever look at the sun directly. Solar-filtered glasses are the most common.
My future's so bright, I gotta wear shades.
And if you don't have glasses, how about a punch card?
This is actually my favorite way to look at the sun because it's the simplest. You can just project an image of the sun onto another surface. If you don't have something like this handy, just use a nearby tree. The leaves from a tree will naturally produce a series of pinholes. Each of those will produce a little tiny image of the sun.
And while Jeff knows exactly where the path of totality is,
oh, I'm so looking forward to it.
We don't know exactly what the weather will be like. Clear skies are anything but certain along the path of totality.
Well, one of the first lessons that an astronomer learns is that weather wins.
And there's always the year 2044.
Right.
That's the next time a total solar eclipse visits the continental U.S.
Yeah, what's so cool is even like 100 years ago, they were able to watch the patterns and map out when the eclipses would happen. And what's amazing, Lauren, bringing you in from Chabot Science Center, now they can actually do it virtually and get it right down to the second. Pretty cool. And Cool glasses, friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me tell you, these things are so powerful. Looking straight ahead, I cannot see a thing. But if I look towards the sun, I can see the eclipse starting to happen. It looks like the moon is taking a bite out of the sun from the bottom right hand of the sun. But thousands of people are chasing this total solar eclipse experience. And I spoke with one eclipse chaser who says that it's about more than just viewing a rare total solar eclipse, but about the feeling that it brings. Scott Posey is chasing the solar eclipse.
I have 4 plans for Monday, so I think I'm chasing at this point. The other eclipses have been much easier.
Or at least he's trying to.
The idea of practice, of trying and trying again, is absolutely essential. And so I don't want to miss out on this chance to try, right?
But it's more than a cosmic phenomenon he's chasing. It's a feeling that sparked inside of him when he witnessed his first total solar eclipse in 2012.
That was when I first got the sort of cosmic feeling that people talk about, where there's just something incredible about the sun being blocked by another object. So yeah, it's very dramatic. It makes you feel very part of the whole thing and very, I don't know if small is the right word, but it's just like you get a perspective, like an actual perspective.
It's an experience bigger than himself, bigger than any individual, and one he is moving heaven and earth to witness once more.
But then once the totality hits, it's just so shocking because the transition from day to night is 30 seconds. You know, it's like this incredible joy, right? Because you've everything lined up.
In his quest to capture this solar eclipse that will stretch across the U.S., Posey will travel from San Francisco to Pennsylvania to New York and the Northeast over several days to catch a glimpse, weather pending. Over the last 12 years, he's grown to share his astronomic passion with others, becoming an amateur solar photographer along the way.
It made me realize how special our world is and how precious it is.
He captures stunning images of solar movement, keeping in mind the human component beyond the stars.
There isn't a planet B. Right about now. Yep, over. Nope. Woo!
Chasing the magic of the cosmos. Now, again, the Bay Area is not in the path of totality, but we are seeing about 35% coverage of the moon to the sun. Right now, looking through these special ISO certified glasses, we are seeing that partial coverage of the sun. And safety first, guys, these are hard to come by. And if you can't get your hands on a pair of these special glasses, experts recommend looking at a shadow producing object like a tree to watch how the shadows of this eclipse are affecting your surroundings.
Lauren, I know we've been telling people, go to the Chabot Space Center and there's going to be this watch party gathering. What is the atmosphere like that? And what kind of people actually went? Are we talking students or total space nerds or, everyday people?
Kind of one of everything, really. There are people, there are children here, there are people of all ages here at the Chabot Center, and everyone's super excited to be able to witness this really rare phenomenon with some of this high technology that they have access to here. We're also surrounded by experts who are helping us put into context just how rare this occurrence is and exactly how it happens for the moon to cover the sun. Guys, it is a really exciting event out here. People from space nerds to everyday people are really enjoying this event out here. And again, everyone is getting a pair of these special glasses. And let me tell you, it's a phenomenal way to be able to view this eclipse today.
Well, and you look fabulous too.
Yeah, yeah. And what I'm super grateful for, Lauren, is that you've prepared that wonderful song right now, Total Eclipse of the Heart. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to cue the music now for a musical interlude. Lauren Toms from the Chabot Space Center, Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Yeah, you wish.
She's like, right after this break.
I was like, let's see how she catches this. I wouldn't have been at all surprised if you'd have just broken into song and nailed it. Lauren Toms, thank you so much. You know I'm your friend if I tease you on live TV or anywhere else. Thank you.
And we'll be checking back with her a little bit later on as well. We're going to have much more coverage of the solar eclipse right after the break.
All right, watching for eclipse. Here's another look from NASA TV. We thank our friends at NASA. These are telescope shots from all around the United States that they've been cycling through, Ann.
Yes, and this is actually from Mazatlan, Mexico, I believe. This is the view. We've been watching the moon there move across the sun, and it's really cool. The sun looks like the moon itself in that crescent shape right now. Here in the Bay Area, we are going to see a partial eclipse as we take a live look outside at the Golden Gate Bridge. So it's going to be about 34% in its peak, and that is going to happen in about half an hour or so. Meteorologist Mary Lee is at the Stanford Oval, where students are gathering to stare off into the sky at this spectacular event. Mary, how are things progressing over there?
It is so cool, Anne. You know me, I am a proud science nerd, so to be out here is so exciting. So many students out here at the Stanford Oval checking out this solar eclipse, and even though we're not in the path of totality, it is still such an amazing sight to see up in the sky. Well, I want to introduce you to two awesome people here. This is Kelly and Riley, who came out to check out the solar eclipse. And Kelly, how cool is it to bring your son to experience this?
Oh, it's just amazing that he gets to experience this and see something different. And, you know, I'm really happy that this department put on this event so that everybody has a chance to see it.
And I heard you just a minute ago, just talking to him, explaining just even the sun and the earth and just how it all, like the moon, how it all comes together for the solar eclipse. So kind of like a cool, awesome science lesson here.
Yeah. Real life science lesson that you actually get to see rather than just looking in a textbook. So it's really cool.
And Riley, you've had a chance to check it out. They've been giving out these awesome special solar eclipse glasses. How is it for you to look up, and we've been watching it, right?
Good.
How is it cool to see that? Because you just checked out just a second ago, right?
Yes.
And what did you see?
I see it like moved a little bit. It moved a little bit.
Yeah, it's so cool to see this right now. Good job, Riley. You did awesome. Yeah, it's so neat to see this solar eclipse out here. We'll be giving out these special solar eclipse sunglasses. And again, we've been saying it all morning long, not to look up at the sun. Not even your sunglasses will do enough to kind of protect your eyes from the sun. So if you have these solar eclipse sunglasses or even the pinhole projector, that's the best option to do to check out this awesome sight in the sky. And we're still doing the countdown. It's still going on with this eclipse. So many people are out here. They made the announcement this morning to come out here to the Stanford Oval to check out the solar eclipse. Back to you.
What I love about this, Mary, and I know you will love this too because you're one of the bridge builders in our community, we are seeing a shared human experience out there where people are united.
Yes.
If you really think about that, millions of people all over the world are having this beautiful experience. And what I love is this is sort of an entry point for kids and science. Maybe kids who weren't interested in science or STEM, girls especially, who we know in our country we need to get more girls fascinated with STEM, following your lead out there as somebody who's into science. This is an entry point, right?
It is so incredible just to see kids excited about this, and how you mentioned maybe kids who didn't know how cool science can be, and they get to actually experience this with all of us is just really just a not once in a lifetime, but a incredible experience. We have that again coming up in about 20 years, but take it all in as we enjoy this right now.
Well, yeah, and every time we see it, it is different. So I'm going to say once in a lifetime because next time you see it, you know, the sun's rays are a little bit different apparently each time. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And Mary, I did the math, Mary.
Right.
I did the math on how old I'll be when the next one comes around. It's a little depressing. Just gonna say.
We're gonna be retired though, so that's gonna be nice, guys.
I'll put the tired in retired.
That's true.
Mary Lee, thank you so much. All right, here's another look from NASA TV, the sun there glowing. This is what you mentioned earlier, Ann, that some of these shots, it looks like the moon because of the color from that lens right there, but that's actually the sun.
That is the sun with the moon passing in front of it right now. So very, very cool. It is going to look like the middle of the night in about a half an hour in some parts of the country. Not here, though, and meteorologist Jessica Birch joining us from our virtual reality weather center. We have the perfect weather, so if we were in the path of totality, this would be amazing.
Oh, absolutely. If we could just share our weather with areas like Texas, where they're currently dealing with thunderstorms, that would have been perfect, because the path of totality starts from here in the southern portion of Texas, stretching all the way up into Missouri, stretching all the way into the northeast, close to New York and Pennsylvania. But let's talk a little bit more about that right now as we zoom in to our forecast here in the Bay. In California, we're seeing sunshine. High pressure moved its way in. We're seeing a little bit breezy conditions this afternoon, but other than that, clear as can be, which means these are a go. Make sure you have them before you watch it. Of course, we're only getting about 34%, but still, a partial eclipse is an eclipse nonetheless. So let's dive straight into what's happening into this afternoon. We'll see some coastal clouds down near Santa Cruz, but the rest of us, sunny as can be, which is kind of perfect for a day like today. As we get a quick look at that total eclipse, the path of totality from Texas, like I mentioned, stretching into Missouri, southern portions of Michigan, and all the way up into Maine as well. They're going to see such a sight. And of course, later tonight, as we're all scrolling through our feeds, it's going to be amazing to see the imagery that comes from this. But it is also worth mentioning that the weather is very active. We're fortunate. We have high pressure sitting just offshore, and that's the reason why we're seeing these clear conditions. But taking a little bit closer of a look all the way along that path of totality from Austin, Texas, stretching all the way over into areas like Louisiana, Mississippi, and now Alabama, those thunderstorms are causing some issues when it comes to looking up and getting that perfect view. And we notice a lot of clouds widespread throughout the states today. It looks like it's an active day for us also in areas like Pennsylvania, up into New York, northern New York, and all the way over into Maine, where, like I said, this is kind of one of those once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. So for anyone who's getting those best shots, I'm going to assume they're going to be coming out of areas like southern Michigan, stretching all the way over into Indiana too. But let's take a look at the Bay Area, because we're getting our partial eclipse. You're going to want these. Like I said, within the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to get our just little sliver as the moon passes over the sun. We'll get 34%. That's how much it's going to cover here locally in the Bay Area. Just around 11:13. So exciting. Right around the corner, we're going to be seeing that. It's going to last for a while, all the way into the 10 or 12:15 hour. That's when it officially passes. And then the next time we're seeing it, we just talked about it. Reed said he's going to be old, which, Reed, that's never going to happen. But in reality, I did the math too. I'm going to be around 48 years old the next time we see one like that. So it's worth checking out. Of course, we talked about it all morning long. Mary's out there right now with the kiddos. This is an opportunity for young kids everywhere throughout the states to get excited about science and STEM. And parents, make sure you have these ready for the kids too so they can experience this in full force. For now, I'm going to send it back over to you guys.
Well, you just made us feel really old.
I'm sorry, I had to tell the truth. I'll be 48.
You will literally be younger than I am right now in that many years.
Maybe we just stop talking about it.
I better start doing funeral pre-planning. I think it's time.
No.
See, this is what happens during the eclipse. All of a sudden, you're placed in the universe. You know, you sort of get like, you know, hyper aware of where it is. But we're happy for you, Jess. You have several more. I mean, knock on wood, you have several more eclipses in your future.
I'm hoping so.
Okay.
All right, back to you guys.
What's the point?
She's like, move on, guys. Well, yeah, we better. We have limited time here.
Much more coverage of the solar eclipse right after the break.
Look at that shot.
Not necessarily scientific, but it does make us a little giddy.
It's very, very cool. Again, just seeing this view from Mazatlan, Mexico. We've been watching the moon creep across, blocking the sun from the Earth. And it's almost to totality. We are going to be about 15 minutes away from that. We're going to be here live for it. We'll be right back.
All right, we continue watching the eclipse as it is happening all over planet Earth, but in the path of totality, including this view from Mexico. This is what it looks like right now.
Really cool to see the clouds there moving in front of it as well. You know, that's one of the things you don't want it to be too cloudy or have the weather interfere with your view, but I think that looks really cool.
Does it kind of remind you of one of those 1980s concerts with the person off to the side with like the fog machine and the graphic on the screen?
It's oddly specific.
Oddly specific, but this is real. And you know what? To prove our point that it's real, Professor Tom Target from Sonoma State in Sonoma joins us live by phone. You are watching this with particular interest because not only are you studying what the sun does and how the sun does it, but also what's being captured, Professor, by video is going to be a movie for future generations.
That's correct. This is both a sort of wonderful visual experience for people seeing an eclipse, but we are actually doing science with the data that we can collect from this. Specifically, I'm part of a group called the Eclipse Mega Movie Project, and what we have is very dedicated, very skilled amateur astronomers set up underneath the path of totality all along that line spanning Mexico to the tip of the sort of northeastern tip of North America. And the reason we can do this and the reason it's useful is that if you're just under any one individual point of the eclipse, you'll have a wonderful 4 minutes of totality. But of course, by having people all along that line, we can sort of artificially extend that. We can get images of totality over the period of time that it takes that shadow to move across the continent. What we can then do is combine all of those images together to create, first of all, a stunning visual movie, but second of all, to study something that you'd almost never be able to see, which is the solar atmosphere. And that's because the sun is so incredibly bright, trying to study the atmosphere around it is like trying to study a candle backlit by a stadium flood lamp. So this gives us a chance to see something we wouldn't otherwise be able to see.
And what is your take on the weather's interference with the view that a lot of people are getting? I'm sure that that is going to be a part of this movie eventually. Is that adding to or subtracting from what you're ultimately going to end up putting into this film?
It's an unfortunate reality. Being an astronomer who's worked in England, I am an expert in studying the underside of clouds. It's obviously something we want clear skies, we want great uninterrupted views, but we don't get to control the weather. We're just glad to have an opportunity like this. Because eclipses aren't completely uncommon. There's a total eclipse every 2 to 3 years. What's uncommon is having one with so much populated land area underneath it that we can get a great view of this over a large baseline across the country.
Well, what's fascinating is the network of scientists and educators all across the world who have known and have been able to calculate when this would happen down to the second and prepare for studies like this, prepare for inquiry like you do. If you're just now logging on to watch this, you're watching CBS Bay Area continuing coverage of the solar eclipse. Want to let our viewers know that 11:13 a.m. Pacific time, that is when total eclipse will happen. You're looking right now at what people in Mexico, in Mazatlan, are looking at. Professor, to your point regarding the fact that the moon is now moving over the surface of the sun, and it really gives us an ability to have a better study because it's sort of limiting the light of that sun. Tell us about solar flares. I've been reading online that today's a really good chance to see these solar flares and watch how the sun behaves.
Yes, indeed. So there's a long history of this, over 100 years, in fact. In 1919, Albert Einstein famously used an eclipse to study his general theory of relativity, and relativity obviously underpins most modern appliances and phenomenon that we study. But this eclipse is now something we're going to use to study solar prominences and flares. These are a result of the highly chaotic magnetic field of the sun. You have this massive ball of charged particles creating magnetic fields which can tear and rip and create these tremendous outbursts along the surface of the sun. And we really want to understand the sun's magnetic field better, to really understand its operation. Magnetic fields are something that play an important role in much of science, but are hard to study in phenomena such as this. So it really is spectacular to have a chance to see something which is always there, but so difficult to get a good view of without the moon acting to block out the bright light from the sun and to study the faint things that surround the outer edges.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
You're blowing our mind.
Yeah. You know,
Good. It's one of the main parts of being an astronomer. It's wonderful to be able to share moments like this with the public. It really brings home the reality of astronomy and the nature of the environment in which we live in a wonderful way that connects it to human curiosity.
Well, and can I ask this really weird question? I'm just wondering what it's like on the surface of the moon. Is there any change on the surface of the moon? You know, like we're looking at one side of the moon, but there is another side. Is the fact that it's facing the sun right now doing anything different, mixing things up on the moon for all the millions of rocks on the moon right now?
As much as I love the album title, Pink Floyd did us a sort of disservice by calling it the dark side of the moon. There really is only the near side and the far side.
Okay.
The moon is what is called tidally locked, which means that it only turns as fast as it orbits, and that we always see the same face of the moon from here on the surface of the Earth. We never see the far side. In fact, we'd never seen the far side until we'd sent probes out to observe that for us. So right now, that far side of the moon is being completely illuminated by the sun, whereas the surface that we see, the near side, is almost unobservable because it's effectively in darkness. But as far as the moon is concerned, it would consider this a completely normal day. It's only special to us from our perspective if we find ourselves under that shadow.
And it certainly is special as we take a look at this live look right now from Mazatlan, Mexico. You can see the moon passing in front of the sun before our very eyes. All right, Tom Target with Sonoma State University. We really appreciate your insight on this.
There will be a quiz at the end of this broadcast, by the way. And we're going to have much more coverage of the solar eclipse right after the break. Stay with us.
Watching CBS News Bay Area, and we are about 10 minutes away from the total eclipse here in the United States, and you can get different views of it depending on where you are. And this is a live look. Over there is our Mazatlan, Mexico camera. You can just see that sliver of the sun that remains. Ooh. Well, I think actually we might have lost the camera. Okay, there it is. You can see the sliver of the sun, and it is being blocked by the moon. The NASA camera has been changing every few minutes as they try to show us all these different views of what is going on live right now.
Well, today, 99% of the continental U.S. will start to see at least a partial solar eclipse, and we want to thank you for having this shared experience with us. You're watching streaming coverage of the total solar eclipse. That total solar eclipse is happening in what, like 8 or 9 minutes? We'll have it for you. And there it is. That's the view from Mexico. I'm Reed Cowan.
And I'm Ann Makovic, and we are so glad you're with us. Live look again from NASA TV, telescope shots around the country and around the world. Again, this is Mazatlan.
Yeah, millions watching right now. More than a dozen states all across the map, from Texas through Maine up into Canada, having this shared human experience, all calculated by scientists weeks and months ago so that we could all have this experience.
And in about 10 minutes, in that path of totality, is when it's going to all of a sudden be night in the middle of the day. I think that's the coolest thing about this. Right. So about 4 minutes of complete darkness as the moon blocks out the sun. And somebody with one of the best seats in the house is reporter Lana Zach. She is in Indianapolis, where people have been camping out all weekend, even longer, to make sure they have a great spot for the big moment.
Today, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway hosts a different history-making event, becoming what's believed to be the largest viewing site in the country for the solar eclipse.
Every IndyCar driver views this place as your kind of
pseudo home.
Alexander Rossi won the Indy 500 in 2016, but he's looking to slow down when the moon blocks out the sun.
I think I want to be somewhere that I can be alone. We should all strive to enjoy in our own individual ways.
Indianapolis is one of hundreds of cities and towns across more than a dozen states that lie within the 115-mile wide path of totality.
I think it's going to be cool.
The Thompson family drove 9 hours from Minnesota to get the full experience.
It'll be memorable because that is the unique part in which I'll say, hey, you know what, I got to see that and I know exactly where I was when I was.
And I'm actually here on the track of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the only one out here, except in a few hours I'm going to be joined by tens of thousands of people with all of us, our faces pointed to the sky.
The eclipse speaks to me in so many ways.
Barrett Caldwell is a professor of aeronautics and astronautics at Purdue University. For him, the science of the eclipse is just one part of the event.
Spiritually, emotionally, just a meaningful experience. It's one of the most amazing things that I think is available to humanity.
For those missing out on the path of totality, the next solar eclipse to appear in the lower 48 isn't until 2044, though parts of Europe will experience one in just 2 years.
All right, so you'll have plenty of places to have community today all around this event. And Oakland's Chabot Space and Science Center is just one of many inviting you to watch and be a part of the science demonstrations. There's Lauren Toms. Lauren, we're just about to that moment when we will see total eclipse. Joining us live now, it's nice to have you with us, friend.
Yeah, hey there. We are at the Chabot Space and Science Center, and the eclipse is underway. We're just a few minutes away from the peak part of the eclipse, but they have given us these special viewing glasses. They are ISO certified, so we can safely view this eclipse. Right now, it looks like the bottom part of the sun is sort of has a bite out of it from the moon, and hundreds of people are here also enjoying this moment. And right now I'm joined by Heather and Joe Holiday, who are viewing this eclipse. Joe, what do you think of this eclipse so far?
I think it's really cool because it's like orange and it's like really like dark, but it's bright when you see it with no glasses.
Yeah. And Heather, what does it mean for you to be able to share this moment with your son?
Well, it's really, really a special moment for us just because Joe has always been in love with space. So it's our first time at Chabot Space Center, which is one cool thing, but also to see this eclipse and feel like we're really sharing a really sort of a life special moment together.
Yeah, and this is such a rare moment to experience. And just to put that into context for you, the sun is about 400 times larger than the moon is, and the sun is also about 400 times farther away from the Earth than the moon is. So for this to align in this way today is an extraordinary coincidence, and we are so lucky to be here at the Chabot Space and Science Center viewing this among so many other excited people here. And again, we're just a few minutes away from that total eclipse moment. We're getting some excitement in the crowd here as that moon inches further and further in the path of the sun.
Yes, and on the left side of our screen here for our viewers, that is a live look from Mexico. You can see it looks like the moon is completely in front of the sun right now, even though we're still a couple of minutes from what they call totality. But thank you, Lauren Toms, for that. And I hope she's strapping on those glasses and taking a live look right now, because it is happening as we speak.
You know what just gives me pause here? You know, we've been preparing for this as a news organization. We know scientists and educators have been preparing for this. But really, nothing does it like the actual event. And look at this via our stream right now and NASA and their generous offering of this live stream. This is nothing short of stunning, right? This is the view that through the ages, hundreds of years back, people who came to this planet and who are now gone from this planet saw this and had their own human experience. And so not only are we having this great community experience today, millions of people all over North America who are watching this in real time, but also think about the people who've seen this in ages past. They lived real lives, right? And they had this same experience and wonder and awe,
and they were probably freaking out. I mean, when you talk about centuries ago, because you didn't have as much scientific knowledge that we have right now. And I mean, what they're experiencing in that path of totality is complete darkness in the middle of the day. So very strange phenomenon. If you don't know what's going on, I can only imagine that that is a scary, scary moment. But of course, the people who have traveled traveled to that path and are there right now.
Yeah.
They know what's up, and you know, a lot of cheering, a lot of just a sort of release after people have been waiting for this.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people have planned for this for months.
Yeah, and in fact, it has looked for the last few minutes like we were at totality, but scientists are saying totality will happen at 11:13. So that's in 2 minutes, right? So they're measuring it by the inch. And you can see right there that flare all around the edges of the moon that is now from this side of the moon, as the professor so articulately put. This is the side of the moon that we are now seeing, and now just that beautiful glow. It just reminds us all how small we are, really, and how living in wonder and awe is an asset in life and in this experience. I take from this, Anne, that I want to live in wonder and awe, no matter whether there's eclipse or not. When you live in the Bay Area and things are so beautiful, I want to have this same feeling, this same spirit everywhere I go.
Yeah. Right down here on Earth, things are very wonderful in the Bay Area. But yeah, seeing this, it does make you feel quite small. I always, you know, sort of get a little bit introspective when I think about space, as a lot of people do, because it's all happening out there, and in the grand scheme of things, we are amazingly powerless and small.
Beautiful. Now, we don't have a scientist to sort of tell us what's happening, but I believe, based on exactly what we've been talking about, now you're going to start seeing the moon start to shift a little bit towards the left of your screen, and now the other side of the sun will now start to show itself on the right side. So this is the view from Mazatlan, Mexico. Can you imagine the people who are vacationing? People planned their vacations around this for years.
Well, yeah, I was saying they actually had some special cruises that would take you along that area, and how much of a party would that be?
Yeah, let's hope the captain is watching the waters and not the sky right now.
Ya no se puede ver.
And you can hear right there people talking about that. So beautiful sights to see there. And we know that this spectacle is rare, and things that are rare are treasures. And this spectacle will not be seen again for another 20 years. And
yes.
I love this.
This is what I've been wanting to see, a view from the ground. This is in Mexico. The crowds that have been gathered there waiting for this, just getting through part of that 4 minutes of complete darkness when the sun was completely blocked out by the passage of the moon. There's a live look there. I believe this is on the ground in Mazatlan, Mexico. You just see so many people. And, you know, Reed, you've been talking a lot about, you know, the sense of community and the shared experience. This is exactly what it is.
Yeah, and you know what? Things like this remind us that that is possible in our world. People coming together to be of one mind on something, and in wonder and in awe. And that's what I take. There's the scientific phenomenon happening in the skies right now, but there's also the beautiful phenomenon of hearts down there on the ground. And I just love seeing what was happening in the sky and then reaching over to somebody they love and maybe recommitting to a new day with their person.
Well, that's true, actually. A lot of people have planned weddings. There was something in one of these cities in the path of totality called Elope at the Eclipse. They were having like a mass wedding under the backdrop
Russellville,
of
Arkansas. Russellville, Arkansas. More than 300 couples expected to marry moments before the eclipse at a soccer complex in Russellville. So congratulations, many happy returns.
Something oddly romantic about it.
Yes, remember when the earth went dark and we got married? It was the dawn of a new day in so many relationships.
It can only be up from here, right?
Only be up.
We're bringing in the light.
Yeah. So listen, we want to have a conversation with you on social media. Post your reaction to what you're seeing here in the Bay Area, or if you're watching outside of the Bay Area, we are streaming all over planet Earth right now via the internet. Use that hashtag KPIX. That helps us on social media to be able to see the conversation in real time. We'd love to see what you think about this, what this experience means to you, maybe what it means to your kids in your life. You know, we've been talking about how this awe and wonder we're feeling from this live feed from NASA informs maybe for kids who go to science class every day and they think, science. Maybe this is the entry point for so many kids to get excited.
It is, you know, and the cool thing too about being able to watch this on the stream, watching this online, is we don't need the glasses.
Yeah.
We've been talking about that. Do not go outside and look up at the sun for obvious reasons. You shouldn't do that anytime, but more people are more prone to do so, of course, during an eclipse. But here, we can just watch it in total safety and have these really cool views that NASA is providing from all around the world right now.
Much more coverage of the solar eclipse when we come back.
All right, we are watching a total eclipse of the sun here in the Bay Area and across the country. This is a live look right now from along what they call the path of totality, which crosses more than a dozen states. That is the circle of the moon there in front of the sun in the background. Just really stunning sights.
Cool.
A lot of business owners are cashing in on the event because so many people traveled to that path of totality like this scenic Texas hill country town called Kerrville. The mayor there estimates that the city of about 25,000 is now hosting as many as 100,000 people, prompting a change usually reserved for hurricane evacuations.
We will have one-way traffic right up here along this bridge.
So you're changing the traffic flow of the city?
Absolutely.
So Kerrville is having one of the nation's longest views of the eclipse at 4 minutes and 25 seconds.
I got a chicken fried chicken, gravy all over.
Yeah, meantime, at a restaurant there, Billie Jean's restaurant, the owner there doubled many of her food orders and prepped for this. She says she's gotten calls for reservations from as far away as Germany.
And you'll go through most of this?
Yes, we'll definitely go through most of this, yes.
And nationwide spending on the eclipse, like dining and travel, expected to top $1.6 billion.
All right, you know who's worth at least double that to us is meteorologist Mary Lee. She's at the Stanford Oval where students are gathering to stare off into the sky. This spectacular event. Pretty cool you're standing on the oval to see something round in the sky.
I love it. Yes, boy, this makes me so happy to be out here. Happy Eclipse Day. And it's just an amazing experience to share with everyone out here at the Stanford Oval. We've been watching the eclipse. It's been so cool to see out here. And I want to talk to Colin because we started our eclipse talking to you. And how has it been to watch this happen?
It has been so cool. When I talked to you earlier, the moon was just starting to move across the surface of the sun. Right now, we're just after the peak coverage we're going to get here in the Bay. Looked at the sun a couple seconds ago with my eclipse glasses, and it looks like a croissant. Looks like somebody's taken a bite at the bottom of the sun. So it's about 35% coverage. So exciting to see all these people out here today, professors, students, and some up-and-coming young scientists. So it's very exciting to see everybody out here.
You know, even though we're not in the path of totality, this is such a cool, spectacular sight to see.
Absolutely, I love it. I've never seen the moon move across the sun before. It's exciting. I'm loving it. I'm gonna take some pictures. I'm just soaking in the day. It's such a great time.
Yeah, you know, love having the sunshine out here, and this is your very first eclipse. Love being able to share it with you as well.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting. Beautiful day, taking in the sunshine, or at least what we have now, and really loving sharing science with the public.
Thank you so much, Colin.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, so I want to show you just the crowd that's out here. Just a big turnout in Stanford at the Oval. You can see so many people with our safety solar eclipse glasses checking out the eclipse out here. So it's just so happy. It just makes you so happy to see everyone's big smiles on their faces to see something that we don't get to see every day. So it's really cool to see. And of course, everyone enjoying science. And I want to share with you and introduce you to this special girl. She is 9.5. And what's your name?
My name is Ziva.
And Ziva, tell me about this whole experience, seeing the eclipse right now.
Well, this is my first time seeing this eclipse, and for the fact that this only happens once in 10 years is super cool. And it's like a once in a lifetime chance, and for how rare it is, I think it's super interesting and cool.
And we were talking about how much you love science. Can you tell me about it?
I like science because of how interesting it is and how many things that people think about it, and like there's many ways that you can show it. Like you can show really cool things with it, and like you can also experience really cool things, and I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, and we get to experience this together, right?
Yeah.
I love that. And we were just talking about how I'm a meteorologist as well, and then I studied science, and then you were talking about how you want to study science when you grow up too.
When I grow up, I want to be a doctor because I think it would be really interesting to learn more about science and other people.
I love it. And I love this is your first time seeing a solar eclipse and even watching the eclipse with our safety solar eclipse glasses. And what do you see? How does it look right now? What do you think?
Okay.
You got to look up? What do you see?
Well, I kind of see the moon kind of like
covering a bit of the sun, and like it's currently like a really white color, and before like there are different colors, like there was yellow, there was also a pink color, a red color, and it's just so fascinating.
I love that. So nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.
Great job.
Thank you.
All right, so we are live out here at the Stanford Oval checking out the eclipse. It's been so cool to see the eclipse happen and then just like the little bit of the moon move over the sun. And it's been really cool to be out here as well. Everyone's soaking it all in.
Well, Mary, I know you.
Back to you.
I know you well enough to know that your heart is singing right now, because not only are you enjoying this event yourself, but you are such a supporter of girls in science and technology and STEM education. And, you know, Ziva there, we're counting on her to save our planet someday. You go, girl.
We are. Yeah. And she has the potential. She can do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mary. Enjoy the rest of the show out there.
Hey, and we want to thank Molly McCrae, our producer on the roof. And I believe this is in partnership with one of our own here at KPIX, Billy Poon. This is a still shot right from the top of our studios at 855 Battery. This is what it looked like through Billy's camera. We've been wanting to kind of see what it looks like. You saw Ziva there tell us sort of play-by-play. By the way, she needs to be a correspondent also, in addition to being a scientist.
And a doctor.
And a doctor.
President.
And a president, yes. But you heard her give the play-by-play, and this is what she was looking at through those very protective glasses.
Yes, very cool. And Billy is a fantastic photographer, so he was able to make this shot dark enough. This is not what the sky actually looked like in San Francisco. Yeah. And again, this was taken within the past 5 minutes or so, but he was able to darken the photo enough so that we could see what we've been talking about, this 35% eclipse, and that is the sun. And you can see the moon there on the right-hand side of it, just partially covering the sun. But they said it was very cool up there. And of course, everybody was wearing their glasses.
Yes.
Their safety glasses.
Yes. And you know, different ways to see this. We also want to thank our friends at NASA who continue to show us through several hundred cameras that are pointed up there, specialized cameras that are showing us the eclipse in real time. Another way that we can experience this is through our virtual reality weather center. Meteorologist Jessica Birch is there. Jessica, I know you've been watching this all morning long. This has got to bring up some feelings for you when you hear Mary talking to that young lady there, talking about girls and science and STEM.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, look, she just manifested it on live TV. She's going to be a doctor. Anne mentioned she might be the president. And I say she's also going to be a meteorologist one day, too. Who says you can't do all three, right? But really, it has been such an amazing day to see all those kids, all those young people get so excited about STEM. And, of course, this amazing eclipse as it moves its way throughout the states. Now, of course, the total eclipse is happening off closer to Texas, stretching up into the northeast. We're over here in the east, or excuse me, we're over here in the west coast. I wish we were on the east coast, where we were able to see just that sliver, of course, move through. And Billy got that amazing shot up on the roof that we just saw right now. And here's the best part. We had clear skies to see it, and we're going to continue to see those clear skies throughout the rest of the day today, tomorrow, lasting into Wednesday and Thursday with 80s in the forecast. But I'm not here to forecast. I'm here to talk about this total eclipse just a little bit more. If you're just tuning in now, the path of totality stretches from Texas up into the northeast. Everywhere else, we see a sliver of it, or somewhat of the eclipse as it passes its way through. And back here in the Bay at 11:13, we were able to see the max amount, which, by the way, was 34%. So that's what we were looking at, and luckily we had amazing weather to match it too. Sadly, our friends over in Texas who commuted all the way out there to see it, or maybe they just live there already from Austin up into Dallas, they're dealing with some really active weather right now. A similar trend for our friends near Louisiana, stretching into Mississippi with thunderstorm activity sweeping off into the east. It's been a cloudy day for our friends also up in the northeast too, but back here in the Bay, it happened exactly at that 11:13 minute. It was beautiful. I was up on the roof with everyone too, and it was so festive. And you saw that too when Mary is out there live with all those kids. There's a lot of energy that comes with this too. Everyone's excited. Everyone's outside. Everyone's eyes are to the skies with their protective glasses. And that was the case for us up on top of the roof. It was beautiful. And now here we are. It's continuing to move away, and we'll see just a little bit more of it until 12:15. The time right now is 11:27. So if you haven't gone out there yet, and if you just snagged a pair of those glasses, go out there and check it out. It has been so beautiful and just so much fun to dive into science with the local community and everyone around us. I'm going to send it back over to you guys.
All right, thank you, Jessica. We're going to have much more coverage of the solar eclipse right after the break. Stay with us.
What a moment. Total darkness in the daytime for those people who were in the path of totality of this, the 2024 solar eclipse.
Yes, in most spots, the moon is now making its way to the other side of the sun. The next time that we're going to see an event like this is going to happen in about 20 years. So we've been having existential crises here, wondering where we'll be in 20 years. We won't be on TV anymore. We're going to be retired.
No, well, who knows? You know, we might just glue ourselves to this set for the next one, right? It's been that fun, and we have loved every minute of this shared experience, knowing millions of people across the planet have been watching this via online sources or those in the path of totality right underneath this miracle happening over our heads of the total eclipse.
And I think throughout the rest of the day, we'll be hearing more stories coming in from the path of totality of what people who were there for those 4 minutes of darkness, what they saw, what they felt.
Right.
And that's going to be interesting. So yeah, we'll continue to be covering that throughout the day on KPIX and on CBS News Bay Area. I know we have a lot of local people who are there as well, and can't wait to hear their stories.
That's right. We are your community station. It's been nice having community with you. Thanks for joining us on this special streaming coverage of the solar eclipse. Join us on air right now for a special CBS News report, Total Eclipse of the Heartland, with Nora O'Donnell.
And again, we're going to have much more on the eclipse coming up on our newscast at 3 and on our evening editions. You can always find more on our website, kpix.com. And this is the minute in the South Bay. An investigation is underway at the Santa Clara County Jail. A 27-year-old man was found dead in his cell early Saturday. The coroner's office is working to determine a cause of death. So far, the sheriff's office says there is no evidence of foul play. Highway 1 is back open through Capitola after Caltrans demolished an overpass this weekend. They took down the Capitola Avenue Bridge as part of a plan to eventually widen the freeway. Caltrans says they will replace the 85-year-old bridge next year. And crabbers around the bay are pulling up their traps for the last time today. That is because the commercial Dungeness crab fishing season ends today. The state is cutting the season short to protect whales from entanglement. The Bay Area's only primetime newscasts at 8 and 9 p.m. on the all-new Pix Plus 44 Cable 12.
Well, we have beautiful weather to kick off the work week, and of course on Eclipse Day, who could ask for better conditions? Now, as we take a look at the winds, though, it's a little bit breezy out there from this morning all the way into this afternoon. We've been seeing wind gusts anywhere up to around 15 to 20 miles per hour. It's going to take about a couple more hours until we start to see that die down into the evening hours tonight, and then by 10:30 we're left with lighter conditions. But match that with high pressure sitting just offshore. That's the reason why we've been seeing clear skies all day long. We had a little bit of clouds this morning down in the South Bay, but that bled off just in time for the eclipse, and now here we go all the way into the afternoon hours and evening hours tonight. Continuous clear conditions, which is just perfect for a week like this. Let's take a quick look at what's happening for our daytime highs today. Despite the fact that, yes, it is a little bit breezy into the afternoon hours, we're still sitting nice and warm. This is a perfect spring day for us here in the Bay Area, with low 60s along the coast, upper 60s into San Francisco, and upper 60s across the Bay Bridge into Oakland, with 70s up into wine country. Let's head a little bit more off into the east now. From Antioch over into Livermore, low 70s are in the forecast for us today. And if you like this, you're going to love what I'm about to tell you, because heading into the next couple days, these 70s that we see right here near San Jose with upper 60s near Los Gatos are going to actually turn into 80s. Here's what's happening. High pressure is going to continue to ridge its way in, giving us sunnier skies throughout the next couple days. We'll hit the 80s for Wednesday and Thursday. Here's a look at the next 7 days. Each of these tubes shows you what the weather is going to look like. By Friday, those clouds return into the bay, and then we're left with some rainy conditions into Saturday as a cold front moves in from offshore. And look at the temperatures too. I mean, we go from 80s to 50s just like that as we head into this weekend. So keep that in mind for any outdoor plans. That's our inland forecast. But let's head along the bay too. For our friends who live near San Francisco, Marin County, for example, we'll hit the upper 70s by Wednesday, low 70s by Thursday, and then that cold front still impacts us just the same, with rainier skies around the corner heading into this weekend's forecast.
Well, here we go. We are a little more than an hour away from 4 minutes of darkness in the daytime.
That's right. Millions across Northern America looking up at the same time as the moon upstages the sun, and the effect, a shadow cutting a path across the middle of the country. Thank you so much for joining us for our special streaming coverage of the solar eclipse. I'm Reed Cowan.
And I'm Ann Makovic, and this is a momentous day for space watchers and normal people alike. It is going to be quite an experience. Taking a live look now from Torreon, Mexico. The Exploratorium, in partnership with NASA, provided some telescope feeds. It's so dark, I don't even know if we're looking at something.
Maybe the eclipse jumped forward in time.
Yeah, so it obviously is very dark there if this is an actual live look.
I think somebody unplugged
Okay.
it. There we go.
I'm like,
yeah, there we go.
what is happening?
There's
okay.
the live look. That's pretty cool, though,
That is
right?
cool.
Okay, so this right here gives you an idea of just how far and wide this event is. The solar eclipse can be seen by millions, if we can take that graphic there, from Mexico across more than a dozen states, from Texas all the way through Maine and then up into Canada. And